I can't believe Rigid Tools did me this way. I've been with Rigid since 2017. As a matter of fact, this drill and driver set I'm holding in my hand were the very first power tools that I purchased for woodworking. The only reason I went with Rigid over the other brands that I could afford at the time was the fact that they offered a lifetime service agreement. Not a warranty, a service agreement, and we'll get into that in just a minute. But the idea of a lifetime warranty on the batteries sold me more than on the tools. But I recently had a little episode with this Rigid router where it burned up, literally. You can see the smoke rolling out of this thing. And I have used this thing over the years, we'll talk about in a minute, but I had to get it fixed. So this is my experience with the Rigid LSA. Be sure to stick around because I'm going to give away a brand new Rigid router with a battery. Details later in the video. Before we get into the LSA, you can see that I have a few Rigid tools here in front of me. I purchased every one of these except for this nail gun, and that was given to me by Rigid because of a bad table saw that I purchased and then had to return. I reached out to them. They sent me this as compensation for having to go through the trouble, which I thought was nice. I actually registered that table saw, as you can see here, when I wound up returning it to Home Depot for a full refund. This is before YouTube took off, or I had no social media clout at all. Over the years, I picked up a few other things like the oscillating sander, this vacuum, which this vacuum sucks and not in a good vacuum way. I wouldn't waste my money on it. The router was the second thing I bought. And I've used this router probably more than most any other tool other than drill and driver of any other cordless tool in the shop. I have used this for roundovers and chamfers and cutting grooves for tabletop fasteners. The list goes on and on and on. I'm telling you, this is by far one of the more used tools in the shop is a palm router, in my shop anyway. I bought this in September of 2017. Right now we're in January of 2023. We're 5.5 years of using this router in the shop very regularly. In the 30,000 foot view of this, it lasted a long time before it burned up. However, I started seeing some issues with this probably a year and a half ago, where when I would power it on, it would start and I would be able to start my routing process, and then it would stop and I'd have to actually turn the power switch off and back on. And this continued on and on and on. Sometimes it was worse than others, and I don't know, something was failing in there. I don't know if it was a switch or the motor or what was going on, but it was definitely having some issues, and I probably should have already taken it in to have it worked on. Nevertheless, I kept working with it. I recently found an amazing deal on this Milwaukee router with 2 batteries for only $199. It was right during the holidays, and I just couldn't pass it up. And the main reason I bought it was because I was having a little bit of this trouble with this Rigid router. So I thought, man, it wouldn't hurt to have an extra, right? And the good thing I did, because while I was actually demonstrating this on video, I was trying to show people that when I turned it on, it would basically hang up and I would have to turn it off and back on. While I was doing that, it started smoking and smoked up the whole thing. And a word to the wise, don't breathe that smoke like I did, because it actually breathed in a little bit and I felt really bad for about 2 days. It's probably not a good idea. I'm good now though. All right, so the reason I'm able to give away a brand new router with a charger and a battery is because of today's sponsor, Policygenius. If you have a family, you know how much your loved ones depend on you, and the last thing you want them to do is worry about money. If something should happen to me today, I do not want my wife or family worrying about how to make a house payment, how to make medical bills, or even pay for a funeral. So that's why it is very important to us to have life insurance. Now, I was an Arkansas State Trooper for 13 years, so everything was done through the state. I didn't really have to worry too much about life insurance. My wife's a school teacher, same thing, covered through the state. Well, she's leaving at the end of this year, and I left 2 years ago from the state. So now we have to find our own life insurance, and what do? Well, we use Policygenius to get our quotes. Policygenius gives you a smarter way to find and buy the right coverage for you and your family. Policygenius was built to modernize the life insurance industry. Their technology makes it easy to compare life insurance quotes from top companies like AIG and Prudential in just a few clicks to find the lowest price. With Policygenius, you can find life insurance policies that start at just $39 per month for $2 million of coverage. Some options offer coverage in as little as a week and avoid unnecessary medical exams. Their licensed agents are not incentivized to recommend one insurer over the other, so you can trust their guidance. There are no added fees, and your personal information is kept private. No wonder they have thousands of 5-star reviews on Google and Trustpilot. Your loved ones deserve a financial safety net, and you deserve a smarter way to find and buy it. So head over to policygenius.com/731woodworks, or you can click the link in the description below to get your free life insurance quote and see how much you can save. So the most important thing about the RIDGID LSA is you have 90 days from the time of you purchase your tool to get it registered. I'll drop a link below to the RIDGID LSA website, but all you gotta do is go on there and sign in, register your account if you don't have one, and then register the tool. It's extremely easy. All you have to do is put in the serial number, upload your receipt, you're good to go. So I did that for all of my RIDGID tools. I don't think I did the vac. But I did that with all the other RIDGID tools and didn't think anything else of it until I needed this. I was like, well, what do I do? So I went onto the website and actually used the chat to find out what's going on. Because if you notice on the side of the website, there's a little chat box. Click that and jump in. Basically, when you open it up, it's going to give you some options and then you just choose what you need there. I chose D, Live Associate. I want to talk to somebody. And then we just kind of chatted back and forth. I told them what was going on with the router. And then they just gave me the address and the phone number to the local service center, which luckily was about 3 or 4 miles from my house, really close. I was like, well, I just take it up there and drop it off? Or yeah. So basically, they want you to call them beforehand. I called up there. They told me to bring it in. They would check it out. And this is where it may differ for different people. My local service center was right down the road. I think it would be nice if they offered a way for you to ship these in, especially if there's not one within a few miles of you. So here's my experience with the LSA itself. I took this router up in a box. This thing stunk to high heaven. That smoky smell, it was just awful. I took the router up there and dropped it off and left it. A few hours later, I get a phone call saying they needed one of my batteries because they didn't have a battery on hand to test it with. So I dropped off my RIDGID router for the LSA earlier this morning, and then they called and said they needed a battery because they don't have one. Not sure why they need it, because the thing's just gonna catch on fire again. We'll see what happens. So that was January 11th, and I didn't hear anything back until January 23rd, which is only 12 days, if my math is right.
1 + 1 + 2 + 1, not 1 + 2 + 1 + 1.
That's pretty good, less than 2 weeks to get it fixed. Now here's the question I had when I dropped this off. I said, are you gonna replace this with a new router? In other words, is RIDGID gonna send a new router, or are you gonna fix it? And they said, well, we're gonna try to fix it. So they ordered parts. And when I picked it up, I got a receipt, and it said that they installed a new motor assembly, and then they ran the unit. And that's pretty much the extent of it. And one thing to note, on January 11th at about 10:29 a.m., they checked the warranty. In other words, they're gonna check and make sure that you actually have a warranty on this or you've registered it. Once they figure that out and confirm that, then they'll fix it. And the reason that is important is because when I dropped this off, they really didn't know for a fact that I had a warranty. Of course, they're just gonna run the serial number through the system. But I asked him, I said, is this gonna cost anything? He said, most likely not, but if it does, we'll call you. And so I'm assuming that meant if it's not under warranty, we're gonna give you a call before we do anything, which I thought was nice. And a big shout out to Majors Forest and Lawn here in Monticello, Arkansas. They took good care of me. It was extremely good to deal with. And it's a good thing that this was under warranty. Now, what would happen if it wasn't? Well, I would be out more than this was worth, to be honest. If you look at the hourly rate on their wall here, it's like $85 or so for hourly rate on labor, which is pretty common for small engine repair, mechanics, etc. Then plus the part of the new motor, I only paid $100 for this. So it'd be well outside the reasonable cost to repair it, which makes you wonder, how's RIDGID making money on this? I don't know, but I would assume they're probably losing money on the LSA when people take advantage of it. So that's where the lifetime service agreement is different than a lifetime warranty. So you're getting a service agreement. In other words, if your tool tears up, they're gonna try to fix it, from what I can tell, to save money on parts, which makes sense. Now, don't misunderstand me. I'm glad, and I think it's awesome that RIDGID did me this way. They fixed a tool that was almost 5.5 years old, and no questions asked, no money. All I had to do was take it up there and drop it off. They fixed it. That's awesome. This tool is a $100 router, so I still got my $100 router. It is a service agreement, so understand that. In other words, they just fixed what was wrong with it. So what's the issue? Nothing really. I mean, they fixed it, and it was awesome. I think that's great. But it still stinks. It still smells like that burnt rubber electric smell. If you've ever smelled that, it permeates. It oozes out of it. And when you turn it on, of course, the fans go to blowing and it blows air out the sides of it. And so it just really stinks up the place. I don't know how long that'll last. And that's the only thing that I've been disappointed about with the RIDGID LSA. But she runs like new. The only thing that concerns me about repairing something that had a fire in it is the fact that the connectors look to be corroded or damaged in some way. Not sure how much that shows up on camera, but you can see they kind of look a little funky looking. Where you take something like this oscillating tool and they're all clean, nice and shiny. The drill that I've had for 5.5 years, nice and shiny. Also, this impact is well used. Nice and shiny. And then you go back to this where it almost looks corroded. Like if you left a battery in something and it starts to corrode. That's kind of what that looks like. And I'm not sure if it'll cause any issues at all. But I think that's from where it was smoking and heating up. and it just got hot there, so that is a little concerning. However, none of the batteries that were connected to this have any corrosion, so I'm not sure what's going on there. I think a lot of people take a tool and use it for 5 years and don't think anything else of it. Most people don't. If it tears up, they probably just chunk it. I had the thought, maybe I should just throw this away. And I thought, no, I really like the router. I'd like to keep it. So that's one of the reasons I had it serviced as well as it was free. And I think that's a huge selling point for RIDGID tools. You can see I have many different types of tools in the shop. RIDGID is one of the only ones that offer a lifetime service agreement. And I can't believe they did this to me and fixed a 5.5-year-old router for free. Now that you're wondering how you can win your very own RIDGID router with a battery and a charger from 731, thanks to Policygenius. All you have to do is click the link in the description below and it'll give you all the details you need. Now remember, you're gonna leave an email address and that's how I'll contact you. I will not contact you on any other social media platform or comments in this video that you've won. We're also gonna draw the winner live February 28, 2023 on our live stream at 7 p.m. Central Time right here on YouTube. So be sure and join us then to see who won. So what are your overall thoughts about the RIDGID LSA? Was I done right by getting this fixed? Should I have gotten another one? Is this awesome? Is it not? Let me know in the comments. If you like RIDGID tools, you'll love the Hater's Guide to Ryobi Tools. Click that box right there to go watch it. Click in the box, get you the big old virtual fist bump. Also, another one of my favorite videos right there.